The Superclásico of the Minas Gerais region between arch-rivals Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro has gone down in history in the most negative way possible, with a total of 23 red cards issued. Horrific brawl. 23 red cards make history. A horrific brawl broke out just as the fierce clash between Cruzeiro and Atlético MG entered its final seconds. The spark for the chaos was an inexplicable act by goalkeeper Everson, who vented his frustration on an opponent by kneeling on a player who was already down with an injury. This confrontation took place on March 9th during the final of the Campeonato Mineiro in Brazil. Thanks to a lone goal from striker Caio Jorge, Cruzeiro defeated their rivals 1-0, ending a 7-year title drought. However, Cruzeiro's coronation was marred by a violent fists and feet melee between members of both teams. The incident occurred in the final minute of stoppage time. Following a Cruzeiro attack, Atlético MG goalkeeper Everson secured the ball. Instead of quickly launching a counterattack to find an equalizer, Everson suddenly lost his temper, shoved striker Christian to the ground, and provocatively knelt on him despite the opponent being in clear pain. This unsportsmanlike gesture ignited the fury of the Cruzeiro players. They immediately rushed in, overwhelming the Atlético MG goalkeeper and sending him flying into his own net. Within moments, the pitch transformed into a freestyle fighting ring with a series of kung fu moves from both sides. As the situation spiraled out of control, security personnel and military police had to intervene to separate the heated players. Referee Matheus Kandenken even required a police escort to ensure his safety. A historic record: 23 red cards in Brazil. The Superclásico of the Minas Gerais region between arch-rivals Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro has gone down in history in the most negative way possible, with a total of 23 red cards issued. This officially marks the match with the highest number of ejections ever recorded in the land of samba. Shocking data. New record: 23 red cards, including active players and substitutes involved in the brawl. Old record: 22 red cards, which had stood for over 7 decades since 1954 during a clash between Portuguesa and Botafogo. Why is this number so shocking? Under standard regulations, a match is suspended if a team has fewer than 7 players on the pitch. However, in this instance, the majority of the red cards were brandished at substitutes and coaching staff members who stormed the pitch to join the fray, creating one of the most chaotic scenes in contemporary football. Unprecedented scandal. 17 red cards in Bolivian league match. The second leg of the Copa Bolivia quarterfinal between Real Oruro and Blooming concluded in an unprecedented chaotic scene on November 27, which the Bolivian media has dubbed a disgrace for the country's football. The match took place at the Jesus Bermudez Stadium, Oruro, and ended in a 2-2 draw. This scoreline allowed Blooming to advance to the semifinals with a 4-3 aggregate victory. However, immediately after the final whistle, everything spiraled out of control. Brawl erupts. Players and coaching staff from both teams immediately engaged in a fierce altercation. According to reports, the catalyst was allegedly Real Oruro forward Sebastian Zeballos, who pushed an opponent and provoked his teammates. The situation escalated when Zeballos' teammate, Julio Villa, threw a punch at a player from the opposing team. Real Oruro coach Marcelo Robledo also became involved in a tense argument with a Bolivian national team staff member present at the venue. During the melee, Coach Robledo was pushed and fell, resulting in shoulder and head injuries, and had to be rushed to the hospital for emergency care. The local police force had to mobilize around 20 officers and use tear gas to finally subdue the mass brawl. Blooming coach Mauricio Soria quickly instructed his players to run into the locker room to avoid being swept up in the violence. Record number of cards and impending discipline. According to the official match report, a total of 17 individuals were sent off by the referee, a figure unseen in the history of professional Bolivian football. Visiting Team Blooming, 7 players and 3 coaching staff members received red cards. Home team Real Oruro, 4 players and 3 coaching staff members received red cards. Surprisingly, Sebastian Zeballos, who was considered the instigator, was not immediately penalized with a card on the spot. However, referee Renan Castillo is expected to send a supplementary report to the Bolivian Sports Disciplinary Committee. It is highly likely that more severe penalties will follow, with at least 6 players potentially being banned for the rest of the tournament. This is not the first time these two teams have been involved in violence. Blooming had an altercation with Bolivia a few weeks prior, while Real Oruro also had a similar history of violence in the relegation playoff last year against Royal Perai. This latest incident is causing a wave of profound outrage in the Bolivian football community, and the country's football federation is certain to impose heavy sanctions.